procrastinate in the decider. I feel like we were taking the hit for the team and like setting up for some PvZ or so, but no, we end up with the PvT, what maybe was meant to be the winner's match, but obviously was not. In the bottom left-hand corner from the Afrika Freaks, the blue Protoss player is Trap.
And his opponent spawning in the northeast as the red Terran player with a worker out on the map very early. He is Cure.
I like it a lot. Make Trap play your game. Don't let him play his own game. Keep it different map to map. And you can play so many mind games off this as well in future maps by like building the barracks slightly out of the base. And he's going to go double racks here as well. We've seen this build a little bit lately where you play double racks, you get marauders off the proxy racks a lot of the time, and then you go for like a marauder marine attack. It can be very powerful. It can be game ending, and a lot of people have done it lately. And of course, Q walls off, and so it's very difficult to pick up the info on the other racks for Trap, apart from maybe seeing that that first racks is delayed.
Yeah, and of course, shout out to our observer Niel, covering the games, giving us the eye in the sky, as it were. You know, being my first time out here for the season finals this year, I, along with many people in chat, were not sure if he was a real person or a cyborg or artificial intelligence of some kind. I can confirm, just a normal, cool Swedish dude. So, in case anybody needed their answers on that. But I like this build, Wardy, and like you were mentioning, we have that tech lab going up, possibly to get that Marauder. It reminds me a lot of back when TLO played Terran. It was one of, I think it's, I always thought it was a fun build to occasionally break out. You hide the second barracks, you get the concussive shell, you kind of catch them off guard. They're not really ready for it. And I mean, if a Marauder catches either an Adept or a Stalker, it's as long as you don't lose line of sight to keep shooting and keep the concussive going, it is impossible to get away. So you can do a tremendous amount of damage very quickly.
Yeah, Trap pretty much must get a shield battery here, because without a shield battery, you just can't control this at all. He is going to come back to the watchtower with this probe, and he's going to continue to scout around the left-hand side. Where's that probe rally off to? Over here, so it's not really going towards that barracks at all just yet, and Trap's going to drop a Stargate.
That hurts.
The thing with the Stargate is initially, yes, you can get units up that will shut this down, but it takes a while to get there. It means you're not going to be as focused on gateway unit production. And man, this probe is looking everywhere for something that doesn't exist, a proxied starport or so. I even think that Trap initially probably wants to build a Phoenix, when in reality he's going to end up building an Oracle now, because this attack is going to hit before the Stargate's ready. But all of this is just trouble. I don't think Trap is prepared in the slightest. He's got no battery, and to me, this is going to be a lot of damage. As Trap, you can see his instant reaction there. He's not really happy straight away. A bunker goes down, and this is going to be a hard breakout for Trap.
Yeah, Depth's going to kind of get a little bit in the way, but there's multiple ways to get around
Supply block.
Natural. So killing the pylon, that is definitely a big one.
Sorry, I was looking at the wrong player's supply. I thought Trap was about to be supply blocked before his Stargate unit started, but just me being a little bit silly, as we do see the Void Ray is on the way out. Obviously, that is the go-to to kind of clean this up eventually. First battery goes down, though. What if we just get the pylon power in the Stargate? That's why the probes must pull right now. And these probes looking for a surround. Remember, you've got a bunker on this low ground as well, though. If you get enough Marines in there, can a Void Ray even break out? Oh, it's just going to be tough this entire time. And yeah, you're on one base right now as Cure. Here comes the Void Ray Marine getting the bunker, so that will stay alive a little bit longer. And these Marauders are just going to kind of go for this, huh? They're just going to make a move through and chase down everything they can get. One Adept would be nice to get rid of here. I'm not 100% sure about chasing these Marauders in like this.
Yeah, at some point, I guess he has not enough capacity, right? You can only put either one Marine and two. You can put like one Marine, one Marauder. You can't really squeeze any of the other ones in. So I guess what he's feeling like is in this kind of situation, he's like, okay, well, I've done some damage to the probe count, but it's not really that crazy since the natural expansion hasn't even started yet, right? Like, this is a pretty big commitment to make, and he has the tech lab up. He's researching STIM now. The Void Ray is not going to find that barracks that's still out on the map, but it's just an awkward spot to be because you have the Marauders, and obviously, no matter how good they are, they're not cheap, and they don't shoot up.
I just feel like if you run those Marauders away when you realize it's a Void Ray, maybe you keep some alive and then you get them going for the stim push or something, right?
Or you wait for the Void Ray to reach your base like this, and then you have 4 Marauders pocketed to go back and he has to recall.
Yeah, I just feel like this was not the way to play it from Kia. Maybe kind of getting ahead of himself a little bit, because those Marauders really achieved nothing going up that ramp and chasing into the main base, so a little weird. Obviously, now you've got double Void Ray here. This is enough Marines to turn this around. But remember that Stim is coming up, and there's not really a good answer to a lot of Stimmed bio right now. So if Cure can set up for one large attack, there is going to be quite a bit of potential if you can just get across the map. But that's, of course, what these Void Rays are going to make sure can't happen by consistently showing up and being very annoying. And they're doing a great job of that so far, really using the edges of this base just to make sure that Kure can't chase around as easily.
Nice snipe.
Nice split on the Marines now, at least, but again, it's just very annoying from Trap, and Kure would love to be across the map actually attacking.
Yeah, I think the most important thing for Trap is to try and keep these air units out on the map, because if he's able to just move across and just run all those stim bio, then, you know, if the Void Rays have to stand and fight, we know that the Marines can rip them to pieces. But look, now he's clearly tried to avoid having to build this engineering bay. But I think even more importantly, as his combat shield should get denied, is he doesn't have the later tech either. It's not like there's a factory where we are quite far away from having medevacs or even a starport. So if he tried to stim to chase the Void Rays, that would also be bad. But as soon as he feels like, okay, everything's on the other side, I can maybe just chill for a second, get a turret, maybe 2, 1 for each base, and then just dip and go attack, try to do something. That's obviously, I feel like, the play. But Trap has done an excellent job thus far of just controlling Cure's options. You can't stim and chase because you can't heal, so your army will just slowly die. You have to wait, and as long as the Oracle and the Void Rays have been doing that poke, he's been stuck home. So now with the Void Rays having gone back and killed that barracks, he feels like he can move out. But I'm still a little bit nervous here. Blink is going to finish, and with good Stalker control out of Trap, which we should expect from him, he shouldn't lose too much. It's not done just yet, though. Still about 8 or 7 seconds, and Kure is making the most of this little opportunity, Wardy.
I mean, that was really everything he could have got out of that. That was best case scenario for Kure. Can you imagine if he had some Marauders still, though? Like, oh my goodness, those Stalkers would have been even more dead. Oh, it's going to be a flank. He comes in from either side. This time they can blink away. Okay, I mean, that wasn't as exciting as I thought it was.
It's not as fun when the slice of turkey can just blink through the bread. You know what I mean? It doesn't make for as good of a dish. I don't think.
A sick play that was negated by just an upgrade that was finished this time around.
Yeah, so the Marines stim up, and 1 Void Ray will get popped. Does have, well, when you don't have medevacs, this is what happens to you.
Yeah.
You know, Stalkers will chase you down, and he can stim as many times as he likes, but at some point you run out of health, and your Marines will die. So
I mean, these Stalkers can just chase for days. Like, these Marines are just kind of dead for being on the map. They needed to make something happen in the big moment, which they kind of tried to, but then didn't happen. You've got no evacuation plan as Trap is morphing in units to get ready to just go into this, and we're going to have a pretty quick conclusion to this first game because Trap has got an amount of units here which I don't see being stopped, especially because he's just, you know, Kure's been losing so much. He blinks up into a Widowmine. I don't even think that matters at all because the Stalker count is so high. Voider is supporting. Double Bunk at the front. Don't matter if you're fighting in the main base. The Stasis Ward will go up to stop the SCVs supporting here. And as another Marauder goes down, Kure don't have the numbers, and Trap dismantles the attack of Kure. And I do feel like Kure messed it up a little bit, Nate. You know, I feel like, yeah, there's a Void Ray. That's hard to get rid of, but Kure really made it more difficult than it needed to be. He gave himself no follow-up options by giving up those Marauders. It just felt like it could have been trickier for Trap.
Yeah, I think about the way that as he tried to push up that ramp like you were talking about, there's a world where I can see, okay, try to throw the Marauders in, but he had like one of those Marines was in red health and it went up the ramp with him, and he left one in the bunker, and I'm like, okay, well, you either bring everything or you specifically pull just the Marines out. Give yourself like the bulwark to fall back onto. But he didn't have that. And, like, you know, if those Marauders are outside the 4th base or maybe just back at the barracks because it took him a while to find those, then when the Void Rays go across the map, suddenly, oh, I have to bring them back or I have to use a recall. But that was just really good response by Trap. He did everything he needed to do. As soon as the Stargate was ready, as soon as he saw what was coming, you know, it wasn't the Oracle, it wasn't the Phoenix, he went straight for the Void Ray. He was going to have that sustained damage output against the Marauders. And yeah, losing a couple of probes when you had 2 Nexus versus a 1 base Terran is not that bad.
You know, one of the little things as well was he actually used the Adept to hit the Marines a couple of times, which is why the Marines were kind of low, and only 2 of them when he got here, right? So the Adept on the map actually kind of delivered.
Target fired the Marine there, you can see it.
Yeah, he knew what his game plan was, and again, because there was no threat from Kure counterattacking in, those Voids ran across the map, and they made life miserable for Kure, and that's the lead which really kind of ended the game, right? Because if the Voids just stay at home and defend, you know, Kure's not as upset. He gets a big push and maybe even wins with like a big stim attack. But obviously, the only good moment from Kure after that start was kind of when he caught a few Stalkers pre-blink, but even then, all those Marines are going to go down anyway. That's just kind of how that attack works because you've got no retreat potential against a Stalker count.
Yeah, Blink Stalkers against stimmed Marines with no medevacs and no other upgrades. And let's not forget, too, when he first tried to make that push, he researched stim at the proxy barracks, which is gutsy enough on its own. But combat shield, which was really important, especially once you are stimming, not having that on the table either is, it's like just a compounding issue. So I'm not going to fault him for going for an aggressive build. He tried to take the assertive stance in map 1, but might need to slow things down going into game 2. And I wonder if Trap is going to let him do that.
Yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see what the builds are, because obviously I don't think Q does anything similar. And Trap obviously never really got to show exactly what he wanted to do. Yeah, he popped down a Stargate, but you don't necessarily play Stargate every time. And then he never built, he never meant to just build a Void Ray. That's never the plan.
Not if it's
That's
made
a
on your
reaction.
main base. Yeah.
So it's definitely a situation here where Trap, I think, gets the choice to say, okay, well, now I can play my game. I don't think you're going to mess me around as much because your life's on the line. You've got to play a bit more straight up, perhaps. Yeah, and I kind of like it for Trap taking that first map.
Yeah. If it was like the winner's match, right? If we were in like that hypothetical scenario, I really love the crazy aggro play. But now that you've reminded me that this isn't, this is actually the decider, because somehow this group got blown up by Scarlet. We do find ourselves looking at a Terran player who's in dire straits in the red in the Northwest. We're on Berlingrad. He is Cure. Dragon Phoenix Gaming, I believe.
It is indeed.
Beautiful
all the mythical creatures.
All the mythical creatures.
Bottom right-hand side from the Afrika Freaks, we've got our blue Protoss player, Trap.
There is some lore behind. There's the dragon and the phoenix go together.
Yeah.
It's not random. It's very it's well thought out.
I thought you were gonna go real in depth when we were right there, but
I could, but I'm aware of it. I don't think that I am ingrained enough in the culture to give a proper explanation. I don't know that I could do it justice.
Next time we have some downtime production, we want the Dragon Phoenix explanation on screen. Start working on that video now.
I think it's a little bit of a romantic thing, but I don't want to get too far into it. I'd hate to misspeak.
Here's Kira's mind game. Second depot at the front, walled off. So
it's the same thing.
Yeah, look at me. I'm doing the same kind of thing, but you just don't know, right? As Trap, you don't necessarily know what the situation is here.
That's true. I mean, at this point, right? The probe scout's pretty much always going to come in. It's not a surprising thing to see, and it's like almost like a double bluff, because yes, it has the same look as game 1, and you would think, okay, maybe he's faking it and he's just going to build his command center inside of his main base. Like this reminds me a lot of like when one racks expand was the meta way back in the day, ancient history times. But instead, it's actually the factory, and that covers for the reactor. Presumably could be going straight for the medevacs to just drop mines, could be Hellions, could be Hellion run by with an expand behind it. You have a couple different options. It could be more aggressive, less aggressive. I'm expecting a little bit on the more aggressive side, though.
Yeah, I reckon 2 Hellions into like 4 mine drop or something. I think something along those lines is pretty typical of Cure in general. Nothing starts off the factory, as I assume it's swapping on over. And they just drop the Twilight Council down from a Trap. So he's already going to go into a little bit of Blink to start us off with here, most likely. And then we work forward from there. The other option is a Dark Shrine. I don't think that's something you necessarily need to do here. It's a good Blink map. There's a lot of space around the edge, right? So it's fine for just playing Blink, being a little bit aggressive. You can just take a third. You don't have to be like hyper aggro with the Blink either. You can just put on a little bit of pressure, keep an eye on things.
Oh,
and,
I like this,
Armory. So yeah.
Get a little guacamole on this one. Look at that. So going for the mine drop to supplement this. Obviously, you can turn the Hellions into Hellbats. They don't really have any straight-up statistical buffs. I think you'd rather keep them in their quick mode for trying to take down probes. But the Widow Mines not being revealed when they shoot. When you talk about the Twilight Council opening, Blink is great. You're mobile. You can get around. But you don't necessarily always go for that detection early on, because like what Terran goes Cloak Banshee versus Protoss, right? Like that's, if this was TY, maybe you'd consider that, but would you consider it this quickly? Probably still no.
Yeah, Mara did it the other day in a qualifier, and it was amazing, but it's so rare, so no, absolutely. As 2 extra gates come down, I like this a lot for Trap in the sense of he's going to have a lot of units, but like you say, there's no detection, so the moment those Widow Mines are burrowed, I'd say they're almost guaranteed shots. Cure! You're 1-0 down, buddy!
Yeah, boy!
Oh my goodness, okay then. Okay, Cure.
Man, I love it. I love to see it. Man, so look at this. We talked about Scarlet proving the power of NA, and now Cure taking a page out of Acheron's playbook.
Yeah, this is really bad for Cure. He's going to dive. We're going to shoot the medevac down, which is okay, but then all the Widow Mines get burrowed, and I don't really like that as much. He's giving up these units, but he can't detect the freaking Widow Mines, so he just has to let them live for now. The battery at the front will finish. Great to wall that off initially, obviously, and to keep these units from getting in, so a bit of lost mine time from Trap. In the way, I sort of suppose I like him giving up the units right away so he can get back to mining ASAP. Problem is they are going to get a second shot off, and that's going to be a big issue because then you're going to lose a little bit more damage. Yeah, this is still kind of brutal, right? Let's see what these mines do. 1, 2, 3. Oh, that one's not off right there. Here we go, 3. This Widow Mine was obviously a little bit out of position, so it will go down. Yeah, I mean, the problem is all the Stalkers are in the main, and now there's a Thor at the front.
I'm not going to lie. I think another big part of the problem is where that shield battery is. I mean, the Thor is going to blow that up in 2 seconds. Does he have another shield battery in the natural behind this? Because with SCVs to repair and a Liberator to support this.
Only pylon as well right now.
Yeah, he's just starting up another battery now. This is exactly what he needs. Does blink forward to grab the Liberator. That's a huge pickup.
Yeah, I like that a lot because the Liberator can do so much if you just let it sit there. So I like that part of this. Also, the Stalker's on the map now. Maybe you could go around and just make sure no, kind of reinforcements get here. I really don't think these Stalkers should let that tank get here, right? I really feel like this should be something that you're more on top of his Trap, and he does get rid of the tank, but he takes a shot because the Stalkers from the top right were not really there right away. He loses power to his 2 gateways, and again, that's a lot of his production just not able to do anything right now. He will have power to the Robo to Chrono Boost out an Immortal, but I don't know if that's coming out in time.
It looked like he almost actually had a mine go off that was towards that ramp earlier, too. The Thor is inside the natural. Of course, the Hellbat, it doesn't have that bonus light by default, but man, that cone spray of fire does a tremendous amount of work. Unable to get the Liberator before it sieges up here. This is big, because this Immortal is going to pop out right inside the Freedom Zone, and that means as this Robo gets picked off, the barrier gets popped instantly, will not be able to build any further supporting units for it, and that Thor is still standing strong.
Man, it's kind of crazy because the wall off the front was so good against the initial couple of Hellions, but it's so bad against the follow-up. So this Thor is putting in work and still putting in work. This Liberator is going to be just about safe. The repair is good. And at this point, you just cannot keep your units alive as Trap and Cure. The Madman is going to get it done.
I mean, you don't have access to the gateways. You've been depowered. Siege Tank is here, and I think we're going to game 3, Wardy. I don't see. I don't see what stops this now. When you got a Thor, a Liberator, and a Siege Tank in your natural before the 7-minute mark, you're in the Shadow Realm.
This is not pretty. Let's just put it that way. I mean, what do? He's going to try and hold the ramp. He just walked in a sentry, but there's kind of a Thor, mate. Like,
force fields don't work on that boy.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously just Trap. He just has nothing, right? Like, his Nexus is down. 1 base versus 1 base is always good for Terran. And yeah, this is just not going to be it. Unfortunately, Trap is going to drop a force field. Thor.
Move the other units. Let the Thor do its thing.
Cure? No?
Cure?
You like the force field? Okay. Okay. We'll just wait it out then.
I mean, Thors get built so rarely in this matchup. Yeah, I guess he's like,
Force field? Does it break that? Is it an Archon? Okay, well, I mean, batteries are going down. This game is over. We're just waiting for the GG to be typed, and there it is. 1-1 going the distance here. Cure bringing it back and not afraid to keep it aggressive when he feels like that's the best option.
Yeah, if we had been, placing a friendly wager between ourselves before this match started, Wardy, and you're like, how long would this series be in if we were at 1-1, right? And we go into a game 3, I'd say, we maybe had like a 10-minute game, maybe like a 15-minute one, a little slugfest, but it's been some very funky games so far. Yeah, no, it's been kind of a fun, fast series. If you just, for some reason, tuning in, you missed a Thor rush, you missed a first game, which was a proxied stim. It was a fun time so far. Cure just likes to kind of mix these games up. And what's crazy is his late game can be so good, though, right? So he can play a really terrifying early game, but if he does get to a late game scenario, he's terrifying there as well. And that's what makes him so scary in this matchup. That's why he had such a good GSL run. So, yeah, I mean, gotta wonder how this is going to go. I really think that targeting the medevac here is the wrong call. I know it disables some of the mobility of the mines, but I really feel like you could kill 2 of those mines right away. You have a couple more units alive.
I mean, yeah, stopping the mobility is nice, but you're not getting rid of those mines before they shoot a second time anyway, right? So I really feel like that was maybe a bit of a rough decision, hard to say in the moment. And yeah, I mean, walling off was just the worst case scenario here. You need a second pylon on those gateways, because not being able to warp in an extra few stalkers once they were depowered. Yeah, and even like the tank here, it gets siege, it gets shot off because the stalkers in the top right on there. Trap is just a little bit all over the place in the defense.
And blinking for it, right? He didn't have a way to get away from the Thor. I mean, worth keeping in mind, the Thor's ground attack actually outranges the Stalkers. So there's no like easy in and out poking against that unit. You basically need to have enough to just go for it all at once and burst it down, which not exactly a small task to accomplish when there's 7 SCVs and 6 Marines there. It's... Yeah, look at the mines. The mines, I think, really set him up just super well. Caused so much chaos. You go straight for blink. You don't have the detection, the armory. I mean, that build is dirty. That's all I'm gonna say, Wardy. The cloaked mine rush in this matchup can be real filthy sometimes. We're loaded into game number 3. Let's see if this man can turn it around. In the bottom left, the blue Protoss player. He is Trap.
And in the bottom right, your GSL champion. In the red, it is Cure. The intro music is funky today, Nate.
I
love it.
I like it.
It is amazing. Best intro music we've had in the last 2 years of DreamHacks.
I could not agree with you anymore. You know what? I had a celebrity sighting today as well.
Yeah.
I got to meet the cowbell person. That's right. That's right.
Fear Dragon?
You know, they're like, Nate, do you want to come to Sweden? Like, pay, you can talk about video games. I'm like, can I meet, do I get to meet the cowbell operator?
Yeah, but you know that she's not actually the cowbell operator. Fear Dragon is. It's just a ruse.
Oh my God. Well, I'm not sure if I'm ready to accept that as reality. I think it's my duty, where I'm from, to just simply ignore those facts, Wardy, and tell you that is not true, regardless of how much evidence you show me.
Oh, this probe gets in, obviously. Early probe scout, no wall off this time. Kyo doesn't want to try and hide things away, as we will just go straight into Marine to push that probe out of there. That's a cute little block. The mineral walk was instant from Trap to get to the low ground. Now, that could have been bad. If you get caught, you're looking at home for a moment, you don't realize the probe is caught. I love that from Q. He's just like, I am not being delayed. I'm just going to slap this CC down the instant I can anywhere. I got to spend a second lifting.
It's a very Terran thing to do.
Yeah, it's just like, he's just like, I've had enough of this over the past few years. I'm done dealing with this probe nonsense. This probe's going to go up the ram. Got to be careful, because it's Marine time, right? So you just don't want to lose it.
Absolutely not. And Blackburn is, of course, one of the, I still think one of the more interesting maps that we still have in terms of layout-wise. It's always been a little bit more on the funky side of, obviously, the top half of the map is just a giant ghost town, so checking that for proxies can always be something. But on the other side, there's a whole lot of room to put stuff if you want to be aggressive. And conversely, you don't even need to always hide things, because you have that straight path on the air, right, from main to main. So you sometimes can even just put the Stargate on the end of the main base or the starport and still hit just as fast as a proxy on some other maps.
Yep, Trial Council opening from Trap to set us up similar to the last game to begin with, at least. As we do have this Marine coming through, and that will be the probe chased away again, as a couple of Marines are Hellion and the Starport all on the way here. So, see how this turns into. You could go one Hellion for scouting, then move into a couple of Widow Mines still for the medevac drop. That's a pretty popular way to play as this, just because obviously you haven't had a Reaper, you don't know what's going on, and then the Widow Mine is, of course, the gold standard. So, looks like that is the plan, and that Hellion even avoids this initial Adept, so that's cute.
Yeah, so Adept's going to come out, throw the shade, and the doors are closed. You don't get to go inside. Of course, going to be continuously, or at least you expect continuously, kind of checking that front, seeing if opportunity opens. The Hellion able to just kind of drive straight through the natural, and he's like, wow, there is nothing here at all. 2 of the probes already at 1-shot health. Is going to roast a few of them, which feels very weird to say, because they're robots. Robots don't cook very well on a grill. But
yeah,
we'll try to get into the main after. Nothing doing, but from as we can see, there is not too much that Kira will have to worry about. It's just a robo.
He's going to scout with this medevac as well a little bit too, so actually it's not that bad not to see. Plus he saw a Stalker second unit, so that takes away maybe the Stargate option a little bit more often. So he probably still has a decent idea of what this is going to be. So yeah, absolutely worth just getting the 3 probes now. He's boosting into 3 stalkers, and Trap was trying to hide it, and he kind of did hide it, sort of, because Q's still dropping. Q's just going to run in. Now he's like, oh, I don't want to be here. Well,
saves all of them, though.
Yeah, okay, not so bad. All right, very non-effective attack or defense. As our Raven comes up, and we just make sure there's not going to be any DT issues, and we'll see what Q does with that later down the line, see what kind of push he makes. As this medevac going to be caught, but he has a boost, and of course, Blink is seconds away still.
Yeah. Plenty of time to work with there. Third Nexus is coming in. Mine gets moved towards the front. Looks like he was able to grab the Adept with that earlier. And he's getting his Siege Tank too. So we can really see that Cure, Cure in the first 2 games brings out some of the most crazy aggressive strategies that you can really do against a Protoss. And then coming into the 1-1 situation says, okay, I feel like I'm the one that's about to get Blink Stalker all in or something like that. So I'm going to go for the tank. I'm going to go for the Raven. We're going to get the bunker, check off all of the possible boxes, because I just, the last thing I would want to do is lose this game in the way that I won the last one.
This medevac movement has been great, but so has the Stalker movement. It's been consistently kind of tracking that medevac. So credit to Trap there. He's really making sure he doesn't get a great chance to move in. As obviously the unit count here from Q will really build up quickly now, right? You get an attack, you've got the Raven, you've got double barracks already in play, and this could potentially lead into a pretty aggressive attack at some stage. And that's why you get that Templar Archives nice and quick. You get a feedback on the Raven, that helps a lot. You can get a couple Archons up to help you along the way. And sometimes you even sneak in Storm at this point as well, depending on how brave you're feeling. If you get Storm up for that first attack, one Storm alone can really just shut this whole thing down. So that is going to be the plan from Trap here. Just quick splash damage in the form of Templar.
Yeah, love to see it. A lot of strength there, as you were saying. And especially on this map too, right? You got plenty of choke points to work with, little high ground areas in the middle, especially like just outside where that third base is. And I would obviously be remiss to forget to mention that you can feed back the Raven. So if we talk about what makes that strong, Charge gets researched now. Auto turrets can be really good at soaking damage. You don't want to get an interference matrix on something like your Prism or any other tech power units. So kind of covering all of his bases with this strategy with the Quick Templar. And Storm is pretty much done. So if Kier wants to make a big move out, he is going to be finding himself, I think, in a bit of an awkward spot. You generally want the tanks to zone away, but they're usually not at the front. Usually the bio's there. So I think the key moment in this game might just be when he realizes where the Templar are and that Storm is already good to go.
Yeah, what I do like is that this wasn't like the super fast 2-tank push. It's 3 tanks, a little bit more bio. So, the first Storm doesn't get rid of everything necessarily, but that's a heck of a scan, my goodness. I mean, now you just know, and you see all these Stalkers moving forward, so he's just sieged in the middle, scares Trap off, and he's going to back away himself for now. He's moments off, +1 on combat shield, but maybe just really doesn't think it's worth it with Storm up and running and just wants to play a longer game this time. His 3rd CC is done, soon it can move into position, and he'll probably just get those gases up and say, cool, let's get into Ghost, let's give myself a fair kind of fight against High Templar, give me those EMPs, and we can kind of play this out from there.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the biggest things too, is as Charge completes and you have the Storm to push the bio back onto the tanks, then the Zealots can charge onto the siege tanks. And once those guys are gone, if you don't have Ghosts, you're just kind of asking for it. So you need to be very cautious. 3rd command center is just about done, but Trap's 3rd is completely saturated. He's got another Forge coming in here, or he has his Forge is about to finish the first one. Yeah, it's a Warp Prism in there. So he could take a 4th, he could try to do a big attack and knock Cure off of his 3rd. Either way, some decisions need to be made very soon about where this game's headed.
This army doesn't have a lot of beef in it, right? I know the 2 Maws and Archon can survive for a while, but it kind of needs a few Zealots in there as well. And right now, if there was a fight from Cure and he avoids the first couple of Storms, Trap would be in trouble. But he's relying on taking a forward position, using the slow zones, making sure you can't avoid the first couple of Storms. And then it actually strengthens that army without adding the Zealots in just yet and gives you time to run some Zealots around the top side, maybe get some money spent elsewhere. He's now getting a 2nd Robo up, and I would imagine that starts to lead into some Robo Bay action as well. We'll see what he decides to do off the Robo Bay, because obviously Colossi complements Storm quite well, because Disruptors kind of fill the same role as Storm a lot of the time. So usually I'd say go Colossi, then Disruptors later, and zone out of Templar.
Yeah, and he's kind of doing this posturing thing, right? But I was about to say, this Warp Prism just flies straight into the main base, uncontested, and now the whole army, you're kind of like, how much of this do I need to bring back? Those charge lots can be really annoying to deal with. Instead of warping in and just kind of forcing this fight. He instead says, actually, I'm going to just pick these guys up, pull them back, take out the tanks at the front, and try to get the High Templar and the Immortals over towards the natural ramp and hold him inside. There's the feedback on the Raven. It was only able to drop one of those auto turrets. There are ghosts on the field now and continuing to build more, but this is such an awkward position to be in because that third base super exposed. The medevac from the beginning of the game rears its ugly head once more as that gold base is warping in, but Trap, he's on top of it.
Yeah, Trap just going to deal with it perfectly. He loses a couple Stalkers, but much better to keep your gold base alive. And obviously he is otherwise backed away. I would love to see Q maybe drop through the bottom side a little bit more as well. It was Disruptors right away as well, by the way, from Trap, so he will just go for that as the Vikings get rid of the Prism. That's great to get rid of. Maybe Q can push on the map again.
Yeah, he has to really be focused about the ghosts. And the thing with that is now we see the transition on Trap's side. So he says, okay, look, I've gotten you to build all these ghosts at the very beginning. Now I'm going to say, where's your ranged Liberators, bro? Because I'm going into Disruptors. He's getting Gravitic Drive for the Prism. So he's going to have the ability to maneuver these units around. And this becomes a very important window for Cure as a few of those ghosts do get feedbacked. And he is able to take out some of the High Templar, but this is a really, really big moment. Huge Zealot Warpin's going to try and go back towards the third, see if he can pull him back. But as that Disruptor count goes higher, those ghosts become a little bit more of a liability, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's difficult to keep them alive when the Disruptors come flying through. As you do see this first Zealot arrives, the rest are kind of waiting, I suppose. So they're just kind of figuring out what the situation is. He's going to warp in even more. It's going to be a massive counterattack. As obviously we threaten at the front here. We blink through even. And there's a Disruptor shot which basically says, well, I can blink forward because what you're going to do is stand and fight. No, you're going to die if you do. So yeah, a little bit tough for Kira as Trap kind of bullies him back at the moment and just using his units well so far. Now extended Thermal Lance again. As the game goes on, you kind of transition out of Templar because, like I say, Disruptors do the job of forcing the Terran back, splitting away. So the Colossus becomes your kind of stable splash damage force. So nice to see that that is on the mind of Trap, at least making that transition as we get deeper into this.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting, too, with the way that as that fight ended, he shepherded the army of Trap more towards the bottom side. So even though his army was kind of on the retreat, he didn't really expose or open up the third base. He's been able to keep his economy intact as such. But Trap's got that gold base. He's going for the northwest corner base. Extended Thermal Lance is being researched. And a Stargate is coming in, too. So it becomes, you need to start actually getting some damage in. EMPs the probes to try and help blast him down a little bit more quickly.
Yeah, this is dangerous, though, because there's potential just to be kind of stuck there for Kira. There's the Zealots finally saying, well, you're out of position, but the fight's going to break out top side right in a moment or two. Kira's going for some Disruptors. Storm's coming down still. I mean, for now, Kira's okay, but there's the Zealots top left. That's what I was worried he's going to run into initially. Look at the workers killed, though. 25. Vikings come through, but too late. The Zealots already in the main. Widowmines are blowing up SCVs as they go after Zealots. 40 workers down and Kira. Well, it's a good thing you've got a bank, buddy, because you're not earning any money anymore.
It's a bloodbath at the Terran players, natural in main and third. That pylon in the northeast corner doing work. He's even gonna recall them. Says, yeah, I don't view these units as expendable.
Yeah. I mean, now he's pushing into the third, and a lot of those units are still up the ramp on the natural, so Trap wanted to get a Disruptor shot like this toward that natural expansion. Disruptors keeping units back. Maybe could have brought one or two of them back towards the Ghost or so in the front there, because he actually hasn't really hit with the Disruptor yet, and that's allowed Q to actually come through here and do a little bit better, not even like clipping away at a couple units at a time. I mean, if all of those take down 2 units, it's like, 10 supply or so, and that adds up a lot as well. So a little bit of a missed opportunity from Trap, who of course does just have the money right now though, and the work account to really just keep this going. Even blinks away from that Widowmine. Q couldn't unburrow it in time. He knew what was going to happen, and Trap's going to keep on pushing in. Nate, he's got Zealots coming through, Disruptor shots firing, and it's getting more and more dangerous for Q as the seconds pass on by. Yeah,
Widowmines have been a solid way for him to try and handle the Zealot count, but as you've already pointed out, I mean, Trap's rolling in it. He's got that moolah. The Fleet Bacon is on the way with 2 additional Stargates, so regardless of whether or not Cure is able to finally get into a good defensive stance, we should be expecting to see either Tempest to break the siege or perhaps a full commitment to air. I don't know that Trap's going to try and do that, because that's just kind of dragging the game out a little needlessly, I think.
Yeah, it is a tough map to end on though, right? Because of the just setup of Blackburn, the setup of the bases, so maybe he just wants to have that just in case. Maybe he keeps trading while building like carriers, right, as well, and just says, well, eventually I have 6 carriers, you can't ever kill me. So that's very possible too. As obviously right now still doing great, just kind of letting the Disruptors have a chance to hit at this army, and he really is coming all the way through here and just trying to keep Kua push back as best as possible. With this amount of disruptors, you can pretty much always have a shot going through. Kua tries to dive. It doesn't really work. Takes a bit of a hit as he gets some EMPs off. Trap will back away. But then Kua's kind of fine with half the army, so Trap says, okay, I'll take some free kills.
+3 attack finishing, too, worth keeping in mind.
Yeah,
as these Zealots continue to rip the SCVs apart at that third base, that the MVP pylon of the game. And, well,
yeah.
Okay, so it's not going to be a siege type of situation. He's counting on this army being too well-rounded to deal with a lot of carriers, and I don't mind that decision either.
It's the right way to end it, because the thing is, he doesn't need extra ground units to keep doing what he's doing now. And if he keeps doing what he's doing now, Kua has to just keep on trying to fight him and trying to, be pushed back and just keep rebuilding units. And so then you kind of arrive at 3 to 6 carriers, and obviously, again, if you just push with that, Kua's answer to carriers is like, oh, I'm going to try and get my Marines underneath them or something, and that's just not going to work.
Now look at this. He's like trying to bait him. He's like, yeah, it's just all my disruptors. Come on. You can do it. You can kill all of them before they blow you up.
They're not that good. You
just
right-click them. Right-click them down, mate. Planetary Fortress is there as well, so something to keep in mind. Trap's going to die for the Planetary, knowing he can zone. Big EMP hits the Immortals and the Disruptors, but he gets the Planetary, and Kua, another hit that he just might not recover from here. First round of carriers finishing up, as a few High Tempo will warp in as well, so Trap's still just adding to this army. And yeah, I mean, it really is kind of apparent that Trap is taking step after step to improve his position here. Dark Shrine coming up too. That's probably the one thing missing, considering this is a 15-minute PvT. Yeah. Just those blink DTs, we know just how annoying they can turn out to be.
If there's one other thing, though, if I'm looking for windows of opportunity for Cure as well, okay, those opportunities definitely feeling a little bit more difficult to find. I'm like, okay, he doesn't have upgrades on the carriers, right? He hasn't gone for attack upgrades. Maybe their damage output won't be as high as he needs, and that can burn into the supply issue, but with the number of disruptors that he's been able to retain, it doesn't really seem to matter too much. Oh, he doesn't see this Templar!
Yeah, Storm is good. Doesn't get the second Storm off, though. Kua has a massive army. I mean, his army supply is big, so he has one big fight to try and do this, basically, and that's what this is looking to be right now. Here come the carriers already. A couple of ghosts going down. Disruptor shots will fly multiple at a time because you just have that amount of disruptors you can allow to, that to happen. Gear supply is dropping. Trap is the one that can rebuild off of this. Cura is not. So as long as Trap just weathers the storm here initially, the reinforcements should then clean up, and it looks like he's more or less there. He's going to lose a couple more carriers as Cura keeps pushing through, but again, you get an extra warping or so, you're good, but those disruptors didn't pull back soon enough, so that's a problem. Cura will at least get a base, but Trap still has 1.5k minerals and 1.5k gas to get an answer and an army up to fight this off.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of fight for Trap where if you're all you had to do is when you started building that first Stargate, at least get +1 air attack. And
yeah.
I think things are quite a bit different. The bio having +2 infantry armor is really helped reduce the efficacy of that supply. The interceptors kind of came out and they all just died. Wasn't really able to get too much done. And all of a sudden, Cure not only knocks that base off, but the third here as well, under huge threat. Tons of probes being obliterated. And I mean, the biggest thing that Trap has going for him is, of course, he still has the more fresh base in the northwest, right? And obviously the gold, even though it's starting to, I assume, get burned through, still has a bit to work there. I mean, he's building 2 carriers and 2 or 3 carriers and Colossi at a time. Still has some of the disruptors as well, but we can really see where those upgrades on the carriers maybe came back to bite him a little bit.
Yeah, blinking back from a Widow Mine there as Trap. He just needs to get rid of this army one time, and I really believe in him, but obviously he took a lot of damage now. Disruptor shot flies through, aiming for a couple of units, goes to the front going down. This time there's a lot of carriers again. Let's see if they can do enough, because there's not as much anti as there used to be, and this is what Trap was kind of waiting for. It took a long time to finally set up to get it, but now he's going to keep on chasing. He's probably going to blink after these units as well. There it is. He's already got extra Zealots warping in, and even just a couple Colossi, now there's no Vikings left, will be very dangerous to this army of Kua, who has gone full retreat after having a great push across the map. He scans at 12 o'clock, trying to figure out exactly where Trap is at, eco-wise, and he's going to say, well, maybe if I can just about hold on, but his army supply probably won't let him do it.
Now, at this point, it's just the resources, right? The economy is what's going to carry Trap through this one. Cure did get a couple of great fights, but at the end of the day, was not able to